I'm Justin. She's LaBre. This is the Better Together podcast.
So, guys, we just had the saddest thing ever happen to us.
Yeah, I flipped the wrong switch at some point on the audio recorder.
And just my mic was dead. You could not hear me, but very faintly through Justin's microphone.
Yes, we had one audio source coming into the podcast. So we literally recorded a 57-minute podcast that I feel like was pretty okay.
Yeah.
And didn't get any of your audio on it. So now you're going to get what is going to go down as the shortest episode of this podcast ever.
Well, I'm really sad about this because I had prepared.
Yeah, you actually put in the work.
Points. Like, I read the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I took out different segments of it, said I want to talk about this. There was no searching. There was no downtime. I was happy with my performance.
Yeah, and you had literally just said, I think I did pretty good. And I was just realizing how none of your audio was actually going to show up in the podcast.
So it's very sad, but I do want to hit a couple things.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's just look at the highlights. And
Yeah.
We're definitely not going through everything that we just went through again.
Yeah.
I do want to explain. So this is why you pay attention to how your equipment works and like really look at it, because
Maybe read the manual.
read the manual would be smart, because we've had this audio thing for a while and I've wondered what the different switches do. And the other day I was just flipping around on stuff because I was trying to figure out a way to get a little bit less noise. And I wondered if maybe it was one of the settings I had on. So I was just flipping through everything, but I didn't know what it did. This is very hard to explain, but on GarageBand, we used to add in both audio sources.
Yeah.
Because we thought we needed to. Well, then we realized, wait, the mic thing's moving on both of them synced, so we really only need one audio source.
Yeah.
And so we would only just put input one in, because in the past it had been recording both mics through one input. That's because we had it flipped to streaming and not to music. I don't know what the difference there is, but apparently it means that it takes in your audio inputs differently than it does otherwise. Hence, why we are in the situation that we're in right now. Now we know that going forward, thankfully, which is one of those things of like, man, I wish I would have understood better how this device works. And the sad thing is that means that when we get the upgrade to this in the distant future, I'm probably going to have just as many issues.
No, because I'm going to make you read the manual, and then we won't.
This is going to be a big manual. If we get the Roadcaster, it's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, and you're going to have to read the manual.
So we don't mess up. Listen. You're not allowed.
I'm really sad that you ruined this for me.
Ouch.
I
went through the option of like, I don't really think this is anybody's fault directly. I obviously was the one that
didn't
flipped.
touch the thing, so couldn't have been mine. But I love you, and I don't blame you.
I was going to say you can't mess up when you don't know what you're doing, but obviously that's not true.
Because we just proved it.
Ouch. Okay. I know that it's very late at night right now. But you don't have to be so rude about it.
I love you. I do. We all mess up.
So what story do you want to get to?
I do want to talk about the albino deer that was spotted near us. So
near is a relative term, like 3 hours from us.
I mean, it's in the same state.
It's nearer than California.
Yeah. But an albino deer was spotted in Spring Hill twice last week. So it showed up on Tuesday and then it came back like on Wednesday or Thursday. But apparently that area has a strong genetic probability for albinos, which I thought was extremely interesting.
That is very interesting, but it also makes sense, right? It's the same way that if you think about how, ethnicities are, it's because those people in those areas had a higher tendency to produce a certain trait, and now there's those people in that area.
Yeah.
So you would actually see pockets of animals that do look more alike in certain areas because that trait's more predominant.
Yes. I do want to say there was another albino just a little while ago.
This is so kind of like morbidly sad, funny. It's just a weird story.
Yes, it is so weird. But there was one a couple years ago that was known as Old Caney. He stole the hearts of the residents in Chapel Hill, and sadly he did come to his demise via car. And the TWRA stuffed him and permanently lent him to the town back in 2022.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's kind of weird.
It is weird, but like it's in kind of this similar area. So you've got one on display and one in your backyard.
Yeah, I just still think of it though like you ran over your neighbor's cat and you're like, I'm so sorry. I know TWR didn't hit the deer, but you're like, I feel so bad for these people. What if we got it stuffed? That's close enough to still having it around, right? But any albino animal, it's impressive that it's able to survive because it's such a target for predators. I mean, the reason that animals are the colors that they are is to protect them from predators. And so the fact that an animal that's stark white and would stick out to predators would be able to survive and to live a life is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, anything that's, whether it's stark white or we've seen the black squirrels out in Colorado.
Yeah, those were cool, but they were still probably easier hid than a white one.
Well, in the fact that when we saw them, it was in the snow. So they were
I didn't think about that.
They were targets.
That's true. Yeah.
Because you get this black little blob in the midst of all this white snow.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's some animals that like shed, and so like they'll get more white in the wintertime and darker in the summertime and stuff.
That just goes into God's amazing design in all things.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see here. I do also want to bring up the restaurant situation again.
Yes, go for it.
So in our favorite little town, Blue Ridge, Georgia, there is a restaurant that is charging people for being bad parents.
Mm-hmm.
If you come into the restaurant and your kid is unruly, according to their standards, because it is at the owner's discretion, you will be charged about $50, according to the people on Google who have left reviews of the restaurant.
I have conflicting viewpoints of this.
Yes. But you found the best.
Well, but let's first.
Okay.
I don't want to jump the gun because, so you said it's $50 at the owner's discretion of a child that's unruly.
Yes.
And they announced that on the menu.
Yep.
Personally, I think that should be announced as you enter a restaurant, not just at the bottom of a menu. But that's neither here nor there. I think that the idea of saying that is funny.
Yeah.
And I think the
actually
idea...
putting it into practice.
Yes. If you actually enforce that on somebody is one thing. Now, I completely understand the right to refuse service. I completely understand asking people, hey, your child's disrupting the restaurant. Would you care to do this or that? Speaking to somebody about that. But to go up to them and be like, I'm charging you $50 because I deem that your child acted bad through the restaurant.
No. And again, it's not on the children. They're doing it for the parents.
But that's still what
I deem that you're being a bad parent, not controlling your kid.
Yeah, which is still understandable. But the idea of charging somebody $50 because you didn't think that they were a good parent is a little crazy.
Yeah, I don't know where everyone's eating out and how much the food at that restaurant is, but that's the whole table's.
If you have in our
ticket.
Situation with 3 people, 2 adults and a child, that's like
you're doubling my ticket.
Yeah, that's doubling. And our kid, obviously, we're not worried about it for the sake of our child.
Yeah.
Our child's pretty good in a restaurant, but
not that we go to many.
Not that we go to many, but also he's a normal kid, but we make sure that he's not disrupting the rest of the restaurant. And I don't think it's a bad idea in the sense of we're going to charge you this much to say it. But to charge somebody $50, I could understand if you made a joke thing, and even was it's $1, ha ha, or you you gave them something as a part of it, you know. But I don't know, I think that I like the humor of it and I like the idea of it, but to actually enforce that on somebody because you don't know the situation, you don't know, is this that kid's parent? Or is this somebody that's trying to do something nice to watch the child and decided to take them out to eat and they don't know what to do? Or, you're in a tourist area of Blue Ridge, Georgia. You're talking about a place where you've had your kids out all day trying to do fun activities. And so they're not going to respond in the way that they would normally respond.
And then at that point, you're probably over it as well. So you're trying to maintain your peace.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Now, you don't want to be a bother to anybody. It depends on what you mean by unruly. Some people said that this restaurant's on next to the river, so some commenters said that their kids were just down by the river playing, and they got that imposed on them. Another person said that their kids were on a tablet, and they got that imposed on them. Yeah. So it's very confusing with the reports that we have, but I think that a restaurant that we've ate at in the past gives you the perfect example of a restaurant as what to do in a situation that you want to let adults without kids enjoy the restaurant.
Enjoy the calm, the peace.
And allow people with kids to still be able to come to the restaurant and not have to be fully militant on their child. Now, they need to keep their kid, like, from screaming out or from literally going up to other people's tables or running around the restaurant, obviously, but where they could still just, a kid's going to be a kid. They're going to be a little loud. They're going to be a little obnoxious. They're going to do things.
They're going to move around a little extra.
They're going to need to be corrected. We pray to God that people are correcting their kids so that way their kids grow up with some kind of behavioral guidelines. But we went to a restaurant, and it was called Casey Jones Restaurant, and it's in train cars. And the way the restaurant was set up is there's a train car on one side, a train car on the other side, and a gift shop in the middle. And so you kind of enter in the middle through this gift shop, and then you go up to the hostess. And I didn't realize what was going on at first. We go up to the hostess, and the hostess leads us into the left side from us, car. And so we go in there first, and there's not very many people in there. Well, as more people start to come into the restaurant, and it gets busier, I start noticing, like, there's more and more families near us with kids. And some of them being the parents you would want to impose that rule on. In the moment, I would have thought, like, these people need to be charged $50 because they ruined my afternoon. And then you could see the car on the other side, and I started to realize what they were doing. So everybody with kids got led into the cars on the left, and then everybody without kids got led to the car on the right on the complete other side of the gift shop. So anybody who didn't have kids could have a completely peaceful well, we assume peaceful time with grown-ups. There were no kids over there. I could tell you that much for sure. And so that's how they split the restaurant up. It was all adults on one side and all families with children on the other side. And it's like, that is how you should deal with people who can't parent.
Yes.
You should go to a restaurant, because if you have kids, we were kind of upset at the restaurant that we're speaking about because we were around people who weren't controlling their kids.
Yes.
But as somebody with kids, you understand it more.
Yeah.
You're less likely to get annoyed by kids when you have a kid and you understand the situation.
And it was a large group with multiple children to each family.
Yeah.
So, like, you get it. It's going to be crazy.
But
you're outnumbered.
In any situation, as a parent, you understand the struggle that other parents are going through, and you understand how kids are, especially when you're in the middle of it. Because even, let's be honest, people who have raised their children already, they have this different mindset that they never had these problems and this and that.
Well, it's just like what we've talked about before. As a mom, we forget a lot of the struggles that happen after they're gone. Like the screaming and crying as you're sleep training.
Yeah, so these people,
like all the really hard stuff. You just kind of forget about it, and you all only remember the good stuff. So
a lot of parents that have already gone through with their kids or in high school or have graduated, they forget that they went through these same things. They think that their kids were perfect angels when in fact they were just doing the same things. But you put them on the other side of the restaurant, so then they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It made me think of, like, you used to go to restaurants when we were growing up, and our son will never realize this was even a thing, but you'd go in, and the first thing they asked you was smoking or non-smoking. And what if you went into a restaurant and they were like, children or no children? Like, what's your preference? And you could say first available.
Yeah.
You could say, you know what, I want to be around the kids because I think kids are great, and, it's entertaining to sit over there and watch kids just act silly. Or you could say, you know what, I've had a day. I just want to eat my meal and be left alone, and so I'm going to go to the non-kid section. Whatever it is that you need, that would be the best way. That is how you solve that problem. Yes. You don't say, I'm going to charge you $50 when I deem that your kids have been unruly.
And most restaurants are set up perfect for this. There is a divide.
Yeah, most restaurants have some kind of division in the middle of them that you could actually do this and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it also
if we ever do start that restaurant.
Yeah. It also made me think just now, though, that, when you used to go to, like, Long John Silver's and stuff, they have, like, the bell.
Yeah.
You'd, like, ring the bell when you left the restaurant. What if there was, like, a bell at that guy's restaurant? And so instead of him deciding who is owed $50, like, people get to, like, go ring a bell. Anytime, like, a kid's acting too wild.
I'm done with it.
I'm done. I'm tapping out. $50. Charge them $50. I don't know. I have such mixed feelings about it. Like, I get it that there are people nowadays, especially, whose parenting styles are so loosey-goosey that they'll allow their kids to do anything and will cause everybody else to have a bad time. But $50 at your discretion, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And in one of the reviews that you spoke of, where it said, my kid was down by the water playing, the owner or a representative from the restaurant said, no, when you're allowing your kids to run through my restaurant to get to the water, that's the problem.
And if that was the case, I completely understand. Yeah. But it's a time. The issue now is that we want to wait until the problem's over to solve it and to be rude to somebody.
Yep.
So you go to somebody that's what this is really doing. Yeah. Is instead, like, if I was a restaurant owner and I see disruption going on, I'm not going to think this is a way I can make more money.
Yeah.
Or that the way to solve a problem is after the problem's over. So they're getting ready to leave.
Now
they
gotta
I'm
make
going to
their money, though.
Yeah, well. But it's like, okay, these people are getting ready to leave. So now I'm going to address the problem with them. Well, that doesn't help anybody. Yeah. Everybody else already had to suffer. And the only person that's gaining is the restaurant. In my opinion, I think we should just all be grown-ups and be able to have a conversation with each other. Yeah. And that if somebody's causing a scene or a disruption, even if it's a child, we should be able to go up to a parent and say, hey, I'm so sorry. You know, we've got a lot of people here tonight, and your child is kind of causing a scene. It's making it hard for everybody else to enjoy their meal. Is there any way that you could try to calm them down? And just be kind and courteous. You know, like, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to judge you. It's just I want everybody to be able to enjoy the meal that they're also paying for.
Yes.
And I think that if you can't accept that as an adult, if you can't accept somebody coming to you and telling you... in a kind way.
Courteous way.
If you can't say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking. I didn't realize, you know, that I didn't even think about how this might be affecting other people. Because sometimes we do fail in that area. Yeah. But if you get upset when somebody comes to you kindly, then we all know, okay, well, here's the reason their kid is a problem is because they're also a problem.
Yep.
But there's different ways to deal with people. I think the easiest way, if you just want to nip everything in the butt in the first place, is to have your non-kids section and your kids section. But if we're not going to do that, we just all need to be adults, and we need to be able to accept criticism, and we need to be able to properly give criticism. We just need to be kind to people when we have the opportunity to be kind to them.
Exactly.
But honestly, I think that's all I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Because now we've gone for an hour and 20 minutes, technically. And so that's about all I've got in me for the night, especially having to go to work in the morning.
Yep. So we're just going to call it a night. We hope you have a wonderful week. Please tune in on Monday for the next God Notes podcast.
More God Less Me podcast. See, it is getting late.
Yep.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We have new content coming out all the time. We have shorts coming out hopefully every day. That's LaBre's part of the ministry.
As long as they're provided.
Hey, I've got a whole backlog. I didn't know how many you got.
Okay, I've got one. So
okay, well, I'll edit tomorrow.
Send them over.
I'll edit tomorrow and we'll be good to go. But until then, we hope you guys will check us on everything you can. We hope that you'll help us by sharing this content with everybody that you can. Maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I only need 17 minutes of you people. If that's the case, let us know. Yeah. And we'll start putting out 17-minute podcasts. Maybe we'll put out a multiple of these podcasts a week because we'll just sit down and do 3 17-minute podcasts instead of one 1 hour.
If that's what the people want and they need, we can give that to them.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be a little bit easier on us.
Well, I don't know, but it'll be something. Hey.
Well, at least it's easier on me because then I get to make sure the kid's asleep at a timely manner.
Yeah. But as long as we're giving content and providing edification for people and maybe a laugh here and there, that's what we're here to do. And I hope that we're able to help you. And maybe, if anything, in this episode, you can laugh at our pain from making silly mistakes with complicated gear that we don't understand.
I'm going to find that manual.
All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of your week.
And God bless.